It's NHL Opening Faceoff here, dude. So best DFS and Sportsbook plays on tonight's 6-game NHL slate. Let's start with DFS. Paul, hook me up with a center you like tonight to build your lineups around.
Emerson, I'm tempted to go to the top of the board for MacKinnon tonight, $9,200. I like the matchup against Philadelphia. They just announced that they've sacked their coach. And MacKinnon, for his part, got 16 points in 11 games, so he's rolling and back and healthy right now. The Flyers, meanwhile, have given up 4.5 goals per game over their 7-game losing streak. This could get ugly, in fact, tonight. I think MacKinnon and the rest of the Avs offensive arsenal would be firing like crazy. If you like cheaper options at center, Roope Hintz is the hottest shooter at the position right now with 10 goals and 3 helpers in his last 10 games played, and it'll cost you $6,500 in his favorable home matchup against the visiting Coyotes. And now that a coaching change has been made in Vancouver, I look for them to be motivated to make a good first impression for Bruce Boudreau tonight. If you believe in that, then I like the 2 centers that they offer in the scoring lines, Bo Horvat at 5,100 and JT Miller at 5,400. It may be an interesting option against a visiting LA club that's lost 7 games out of their last 9.
I mean, Geoff, you feel like making it rain there with the $9,200 Mr. MacKinnon?
Yeah, it almost feels like a night where you might be a little bit contrarian to pay up because there's so many good value options. I don't hate it, but I do think that like center is an option where you can certainly pay down. And I don't even mind taking a shot with Jack Hughes here. I actually kind of like the spot. I mean, it's Ottawa, right? So, I mean, what's not to like? They still last in goals allowed, last in a bunch of defensive metrics. Jack Hughes hasn't been like great since he's returned, but that's going to keep ownership down as well. Still going to get plenty of time out there on the power play and stuff for the Devils. So I think just matchup-wise, it's a good shot to take a shot with Hughes and like the top 6 for the New Jersey Devils. And then Trevor Zegras is another player you can pay down for. I mean, 14 points in 10 games. Like, where did this guy come from? Where did the whole Anaheim Ducks team come from this year? It's insane, but Zegras really good value at 5,200. Just keep playing him until he's priced above 6K. So lots of value. I mean, Paul mentioned Hintz too. Lots of value at the center position tonight.
I feel like as we go to the wings and things department, like Alex Ovechkin here just keeps aiming higher and higher in his quest just to score goals. Would you feel like paying up for him tonight, Geoff?
No, I think, again, with what we were getting on offer at wing, I don't think you need to necessarily need to go to 9,600. I think Jake Guentzel against Seattle is just too good to pass up there at 7,500. Obviously coming off a hat trick, so maybe it's feels like a little bit like chasing points, but it's a player who's averaging 5 shots on goal over his last 10 games too. When Sidney Crosby has been healthy and playing well, and Guentzel's playing alongside, I mean, those two are just a really good pair, especially against weaker teams. We saw what they did against Vancouver. Seattle's really not much better in terms of defense, especially in goal. So I like paying up for Guentzel there. Jason Robertson, another player, playing really well on that line with Hintz you could consider against the Coyotes.
Okay, what are you deciding to do here at wing, Paul?
Well, you got to do the obligatory Ovi reference. He's on fire. We all know that. And he's facing the visiting Ducks club. They're scoring a lot, but they're also giving up a ton. And that's the interesting part of it. 17 goals against in their last 4 games. So it's a spicy possibility for Ovi to build up another big night on his resume. Among the mere mortals on the wing, though, I like Colorado's Rantanen and Landeskog against the reeling Flyers at $8,800 and $7,400 respectively. With the coaching change and the disarray that must be around that team today, I think this is a really good possibility. And then in the lower end of the board, Brady Tkachuk has looked like a runaway train with 10 points in his last 10 games played, and I don't think the Devils will be able to contain him tonight. So that's a solid play for $5,700 in my view. And at the lower end of the board, I like the Caps' TJ Oshie for only $4,200 as he's back in the Caps' top 6 mix. And you know he's anxious to be an impact player with his high active and high energy approach.
Paul, who is your go-to guy back on the blue line?
Well, I want to say Cale Makar, but you got to check his status because he was scratched on the weekend. So before you commit to him and his lofty price tag, take a look at what Rotowire's lineup looks like for you before you commit to that. And if he can't go, then I like Devin Taves in his place. He comes in at $6,000 with a career best 11 points in his last 10 games played, and he's going to play all the high leverage minutes and more if Makar can't go. But even if he doesn't, he's still good play at that price point. And then if you want a safer play, look at the other games. I'll be considering Quinn Hughes at $5,600. He got 20 points in 24 games when the Canucks were in a full train wreck mode. And I think his group will be motivated tonight, so that should reflect positively on him.
All right, Geoff, what about you, man? Give me a defenseman.
Yeah, I think if you're going to pay up for defense, Dougie Hamilton is absolutely fine, especially with Maker obviously, questionable. If you don't want, you don't necessarily have to, but I think Hamilton is clearly, like you've got Letang and Carlson below him. I think with the matchup against Ottawa, Dougie Hamilton is in a pretty clear spot to be the number one play there. So I really don't mind paying up for him. But there's a ton of places you can pay down. I agree with Paul. Like Quinn Hughes is a very good play there at 5,600. I do expect like the Vancouver team as a whole, they're not very good, but their offense is definitely better than what they've shown this year. And I think Hughes should benefit from the coaching change just as much as anyone there. Still going to get tons of power play time. LA is fine, but they're also coming off a game, last night. So I think Quinn Hughes is a very good target there. Going down, you could even think about Vince Dunn. But a little bit of a tougher matchup there. So lots of places you can go on D. If you're going to pay up, though, just go all the way up to Hamilton.
All right, Ulrich, which way are you leaning for your goalie matchup tonight?
Yeah, I mean, again, the safer play is to go with the team playing the Arizona Coyotes. Jake Ottinger, again, Dallas potentially going to get the start. He's just played out of his mind so far. He's got a .905 save percentage over, since he's basically joined the Stars again this year. So I think that's fine to pay up for. But for GPPs, you want to get a little bit more fancy. I think the Canucks goalie, Thatcher Demko, assuming he gets the start, he's played really well. I mean, I know he's coming off a loss, but he's definitely picked up his play a bit. And if you like this narrative that Paul and I are throwing out with the coaching change, I think Demko's in a sneaky good spot to get a win as well. So GPPs under 8K there with Thatcher Demko. Like I said, that's where I would go for big fields.
Okay, Paul, what about you, man? Take us to the crease.
I'm going to give you a 3. The Caps are rolling along and are always tough at home, so you can have to consider either of their goalies for $8,200 against the visitors from Anaheim. If you go with a high win probability elsewhere, you got to consider the Avs in Philadelphia, and that means that you look at whoever's starting for them in goal. It looks like it's going to be their number 2 guy, Jonas Johansson, for $8,000. But as always, I encourage our viewers to go to the Rotowire for updates on whether or not Darcy Kemper will get the medical clearance to play instead. And finally, the Penguins are playing a very stingy defensive style right now, and Tristan Jarry has been the hottest goalie on the planet with a 160 goals against average in his last 10 starts. I wish AJ would have heard me say that, guys. Tonight, he's in line to face Seattle on the road and costs $7,900.
I'm sure AJ is watching now and punching air currently. Finally, let's move to the sportsbook real quick here, guys. What's your favorite money line bet tonight, Paul?
There are a few lopsided money lines that I'm going to stay away from. I just don't see much value on either side, and I don't see a big case for an upset in those circumstances. So I'll try the other 3 games. I spoke of a new motivation for Vancouver and the recent struggles of the visiting Kings, so I will be on the -145 bet for a Canucks win tonight. I also see the Avs are a significant road favorite at -160, but I'm very comfortable with that bet too. And then finally, I believe the Penguins right now are near the top of their defensive game, and their offense is starting to get rolling again with Sid the Kid back in tow. And I like their firepower over the Kraken as -130 road faves tonight.
Geoff, you like anyone with plus money?
Plus money. I actually don't hate the Senators on the road. They've actually played quite well. They've been winning shootouts, but like we mentioned, Brady Tkachuk playing well. They can certainly, the Devils have been just as bad defensively as the Senators of late. So I think the Senators are very live at +140. We mentioned the Canucks. I just can't bet them at -130. I think that if this game was closer to a pick'em, then I would be on the Canucks. But I actually like the Penguins. That's probably my favorite bet of the night for the money line. -130. Paul mentioned Tristan Jarry playing really, really well. I think this Penguins team has enough going right now to get up a win here against the Kraken on the road. That's going to be my top play there for the money lines.